So I just had the delivery of the new VA Composites Synystr CB. So literally put these in today, gonna have a first look, bit of a hit through the different weights, and Matt and I are gonna talk through what we're feeling. Design-wise, one thing VA does when they go to a higher balance shaft is put a bit of tungsten in the material at the top of the shaft, not to have to go too thick on the walls. That helps to create the back weighting. And this one, T1100 in the tip.
Yeah, it seems like they've continued the same with the original Synystr line. They've continued that just from the initial waggle test, not that it really means a huge amount. It definitely feels like it's still stable in the tip section.
Yep.
It just feels a lot stronger through the handle than the original Synystr does. It doesn't quite feel as tip heavy as the original one.
Yeah, I mean the Synystr, and I use that because it's quite bottom end weighted, and with driver I drop in a little bit more than the rest of my set, so I need a bit more of the tip end to hit against. But I mean our initial thoughts when we took a hold of them raw was how stable the butt section felt in particular. I mean it felt pretty sturdy, so it'll be interesting when hitting to see how that translates from a feel point of view. So
yeah, and one of the things that we found with the first Synystr line, and to be honest across all of the VA line, is you find as you go through the weights and even the flexes within the weights, there's a real variance in the feedback and the feel. So we've got the 55 in the 3, which is their regular flex. Then we've got the 65 in the stiff in the X, and then the 75 in the stiff in the X. And we'll go through, we'll hit all 5 and just give our initial feedback. Is there any variance between the weight brackets? Is there any variance in feel between the flexes? We'll kind of give you just a rundown on feel through the whole lot.
Yeah. Right.
Should we get to hitting?
After you.
So we're going to start with the 55-3 flex. So the 55 regular, this is the lightest option that they do at 55 grams.
Yeah, I mean between the flexes they progress a couple of grams each flex. So certainly within the 65, 75s they go up 2 grams per flex. So there's a little bit of weight progression. Some shafts don't, but these ones have that little bit of weight progression through.
Let's give it a whirl. Initial pickup, it feels very uniform. It's very much not like the original Synystr where you'd kind of take it away and you'd feel the head almost drag a little. This definitely has there's a lot more up in that handle, which you'd hope so as it's the counterbalance model. And
relative, because their other one, the Nemesis, is really quite counterbalanced. Would you say this is not as exaggerated?
No, you can definitely still feel the bottom end, which the Nemesis is all up in the handle. This you can definitely feel that uniformity the whole way down the shaft. Bar the fact it's a little light, so I'm going to lose it right. I have to say load and unload and feel of the load and unload was very, very good. You could really feel that as I pulled down on it, I could really feel that midsection really load up and then release right through an impact, but I didn't lose the bottom end.
Okay, got it. So it's almost
it didn't feel like the face wanted to spin out on me or really flip over. That was just, I just lost the timing because it's too light for me.
Okay, so more some stable top, stable bottom, soft middle kind of sensation.
Let's see if I can just time one up a little more.
Yeah, it looks, and then knowing your action as well, it looks very evenly balanced through.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I can make
a spin as well.
Anytime I can make a 55 gram shaft go 320 on the fly, 345 total at 2000 spin, I'd say it's without losing the face angle, it's pretty damn consistent.
It's interesting from back here. It sounds very stable at impact. It sounds very solid at impact. Whereas sometimes in the lighter weights, particularly for you, it can get a little tinny. This actually sounds there's quite a bit on the back of the ball. It sounds like a heavier shaft.
Yeah.
Sounds like an odd comment.
Let me have one more, and then you can jump in. Yeah, that is pretty damn impressive in feel.
Well, I've got to follow that. Yeah, so actually, again, for you at that weight, that's really stable on spin. Okay.
Very impressive. And so just as a reference, we're using the GT3 in the 9 degree. Just so that's uniform across everything. The head's not changing for either of us. It's just flat the same.
Yeah. As you say, it definitely feels like in some of the counterbalance shafts, they can feel very, very heavy, very butt oriented. This one actually feels like a really uniform weight, but moves a little easier.
Yeah, you can really,
it moves like a counterbalance,
feel.
but swings.
I mean, for
neutral.
me, the reference for counterbalance has always been the Devotion HB,
Right. Yeah.
which is a very stout upper half feeling shaft. There's no load and unload in the feel. There's a small amount right at the tip, but there's not that real release that you get with some shafts where you feel the middle half give and then the head release through. That gives you that feel whilst keeping the counterbalance nature of controlling swing weight, controlling how the shaft loads.
Yeah. And again, the kind of the waggle bit, you can sense that bit of give in the middle. So, all right, let's see how it actually hits. Okay, yeah. So I need to get used to not having weight in the bottom.
Yeah,
that's
slightly
just a
different
case
feel
of
for what you're used to.
a couple of swings to dial it in, but I mean, as a miss hit,
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
pretty good numbers, and face control's pretty damn good as well.
And how rotten that strike was, I mean, I nearly missed it. It's still up there somewhere. Actually, I didn't feel it twist. That felt very, very
Didn't
stable.
sound like there was a lot of movement in there. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so I lose the bottom end on it, but actually you can feel that, as you say, feel that little load, feel a bit of pop, but not
just
loose
doesn't
at the
lose
bottom. I'm going to get that one more just to feel hopefully a solid hit. Yeah, so I'm starting to control the face, but that felt a more solid contact. That feels really stable.
Yeah, I mean the numbers back
But
that
there's
up as well.
some feedback as well. So yeah, I mean low spin.
Yeah, 1900 spin, 261. Okay, it's turned over a touch, but 261 on the fly for you is a pretty damn good
Yeah,
number.
Synystr range, you can tell the Synystr range is about the lower spin side of things, which is why I've gone to it in my driver in the kind of standard, for want of a better phrase, Synystr. But yeah, that's a really strong ball flight without being dead. There's not a harshness to it at all. Though. So it'd be interesting upping the weight to see where that takes it from a feel standpoint.
I'm going to keep you in the bay. And we're going to go up to the 65.4, so the 65 stiff. So this is for us in terms of looking at the weights and how it breaks down for us, this is our next logical option. Between the regular and the stiff and the 65, there's 1 gram, 64 to 65, 0.1 of torque. So variation between those two is very similar. So for us, with how it sits in our matrix, we've initially gone with the 65 stiff. Look, if they're as popular as other options from VA have been, we may add that 64 in, but let's see how we find these. Oh.
Okay. Yeah. So again, you get that little bit of give through the middle. It's not dead. Really solid at contact.
It looks swing for me. Stood back here. Swing lines look very good for you with that.
I've gone after it a bit and lost the bottom end. I need to not hit it like mine. I think so used to the counterbalances having no sensation at the bottom end. And I always struggle with high balance to time. I've got to quiet my hands down quite a bit through, but you get something back from it. It's interesting, the contact feels quite, how do you describe it? It's trying to describe feel. It's not the kind of harshness and almost crispness that you get out of some of the other low torque shafts. There's a bit of pop to it, but it's how do you describe? Yeah, it's trying to put a feel into words.
That's where VA have done so well with this. I mean, that in the 65 in the stiff is 3.7 on the torque.
Yeah.
So there's still quite a lot of kind of feel and give to it.
Yeah. So that was a better move, and that felt like the shaft's giving me something back, but that's just not. That's just a frozen rope.
Oh, 269 at 1800.
It's easy to move. I'd say for me, if I get on course, I know I hit it a bit harder with the hands, and I know I'll then lose the bottom end if I've got a few swings to dial it back. But that's a ball flight.
Yeah, that's very nice. Right, let's see what damage I can cause.
But I say with both the stiff in the 65 and the reg in the 55, the shaft's giving you something back. You know, it's not just a dead high balance plank.
Yeah.
There's definitely load and unload in it.
Which I have to say, for me, having pretty much tested everything on the wall at this point, it's something I think that the Nemesis has not necessarily done as well as it could do. It's always been quite not dead's the wrong word, but it's just not had that real feel through the impact zone of real give and release, whereas this is just ticking that.
But whether the Nemesis is that bit more counterbalance, so whether you just don't get
quite
this
as much.
sits in a sort of a, if you were to rank kind of 1 as tip balance and the Nemesis is a 10 in terms of counterbalance, this sits as more of an 8, 7 or 8. It's not as exaggerated, so it's not quite as polarizing in terms of how it swings.
Right. Oh, that feels very nice.
That's a wince at how far that's going to go. Yeah.
That feels very nice. You do just get that through the midsection. You just get that little bit of, as you get sort of here in the golf swing, you just feel that shaft just fetch back through. You haven't got that battle to try and catch it.
Say that was the sensation I like you said, that fetch through. There's that little bit of recovery through impact that just feels like it's just helping you square the face up a little bit. Yeah, you can tell you're enjoying that one.
Definitely feel like, having been in a place with driver where I've really struggled over the last 18 months, just not knowing. I mean, that's why we looked at the mini driver. That's why I put 1 iron in the bag. I just couldn't find that long option off the tee. I feel like this is like a driver I've played before.
Yeah, I know there's a reason why you've always gone back to that Rogue 130 in a 60X. It's the weight sitting in that kind of very stable handle and not overly high balance, but not really kill you.
I think this the
Interesting shaft this one because it pulls together properties from a lot of good bits of shafts.
I think the X for me could be very, very interesting. Let me hit one more with the stiff and then we'll go up to the X, because then we're up from 65 to 67 then, aren't we? So. Oh, yeah, I quite like that.
And for you to, we'll do the same thing as I'll keep you in the bench.
Yep.
I think the club head through the ball for you to look kind of quiet and simple and stable rather than the bit of Zorro that can often go on for you when, because for you with your acceleration profile, if it gets out of kilter, it's a big snap and there's a big miss one way or another. That's as quiet a looking club face through the ball as I've seen.
Yeah, I have to say, just that felt like a driver I played in 2019, 2020 in the Cobra and the F9 with the non-aftermarket Rogue White. Because we put the 125 MSI and it just started to get a bit too boardy. It got a bit too counterbalanced, a bit too boardy, I just couldn't find it. And this, in the 4, started to feel like home. So I'll be intrigued to see what this does.
Yeah, as you up the flex, whether that same smoothness to the field stays.
I have to say, as much as we will always stand there and say the waggle test doesn't mean a lot.
We both do it, so clearly.
Yeah, exactly. There's you still keep the feel in the midsection. Given that we're into the X, where normally you'd expect just across the board, no matter what you're looking at, quite a boardy feel within the range. This still has quite a bit of give through this midsection. You can really feel it. I mean, we're still at 3.5 torque. It's still quite a within the X range. It's still quite a soft and.
Because that was the thing when you compare it to like whiteboard, the progression through the flex ranges. It was almost like the softer flexes were a different profile, and we actually challenged them on it. Was it a different profile to the stiffer flexes? And actually, the tips are very similar, but the mid to butt section ramped up as well the flexes, and they were noticeably much more stout through the midsection. Is that, would you say? Actually, I haven't hit one yet, but.
This is much more uniform.
Okay.
And this is something, to be honest, this is something we saw with original Synystr. In the 65, the stiff to the X were 2 very, very different shafts. The stiff felt quite smooth, and like you could really, it was more tip end, you could really load it, and then the X just felt like you were just swinging a pole.
Yeah, you kind of lost a bit of feel for the bottom end.
This just initially feels like the stiff. I mean, we'll give it a hit and see if it still plays like it.
That looks even better connected. That looked like it. So I think in the stiff when we went up to the 65 and the stiff, The weight was better for me, but I still felt like I had something in a little bit in the bottom end to hit against, which for you can tend to drop it, and that actually looked even tighter again.
That felt to me like it just tracked the body line all the way.
Okay, yeah.
And there was just that little bit of give, just to give me that little bit of extra speed and release that sometimes I don't quite let that toe end just rotate.
That looks like you've got so much time through impact, which, considering it's going at 127 miles an hour, is a ridiculous concept. But actually, whereas the stiff looked like it had there's still a little bit going on. That looks like you've got all the time in the world. Just the club's just there, and you're just collecting it.
It feels like I can pull it and really hit at it, so I can load up the grip end as much as I like, but I don't lose the rigidity of it.
Yeah.
It's still very stable, but then that midsection just allows the club to get out and go. Well, I've healed that one. That'll be interesting.
I'm only laughing because when these shafts came in, we had a little feel of it and got the 75X and tried to get some bend in the grip end, and it wasn't bending. So,
right, you have a go with that one. I think the answer is going to be too stiff, too stable.
Right.
But I have to say that's very impressive.
Yeah, more even. I think what it is the loading, little bit more load you get in the middle of the stiff, helps give that sensation for the bottom end a bit more. It'd be interesting to swing it, but I think where you feel a little bit of give helps get the sensation for the club head a little bit more.
Yeah, I think if you're someone that likes that stout, stable feel through the hands, like you can just hit it as hard as you like, but you just need that little bit of help with the shaft just to give you that bit of feedback that it's gonna want to square. This is the answer, and it's just a case of finding the right weight to match up to you.
So I can't go above 65. That I can already feel getting a little behind. But again, that stability, considering that wasn't a great hit, that stability of flight is still very, very impressive. Yeah, it's a very, very, very uniform. I know it is a counterbalance shaft, but it doesn't swing heavily counterbalanced.
No, you still get a feel of that.
It's still very easy through, but yeah, you can feel that that's just up the rigidity. Yeah, it's too much shaft for me though.
And now we're going to really make it too much and go into the 75.
But that progression from the flexes, actually say, I don't necessarily think it does change. Sometimes the balance pattern changes. I don't think it has on those. It's just the fact that you're not feeling the shaft give means it dials the flex up, dials rigidity up, and as a result, it feels slightly lighter in the head because you're not getting the momentum, the sensation of the movement in the shaft.
I think where we, not feared, but where we had in the original Synystr that variance as we went through the flexes within the weight bracket, they stay very, very similar in feel. It's just if you want something that feels that little firmer, you just jump up a couple of grams into that next flex. But they're a lot more consistent. Very good.
I'll hit this one, but I might leave you to do 75X.
So that's then into the 75, but into the stiff. So it's jumping up 8 grams versus where we just were. It'd be interesting to see feel-wise.
Still get that feel in the middle of the shaft. You still, as I get to there, I can actually feel that little bit as you get that working up. You can feel the shaft give you a little bit of something back.
I mean, it's still at 3.4 torque.
Yeah.
Not that torque is the be-all and end-all of shaft feel, but it at least gives some reference across as to how it might feed back.
Yeah, necky, but not hard work. At that weight, not hard work to swing.
Yeah, it's just
so I'm
drops under.
having to fetch at it, but I can get it through. So, for me, the weight's a little heavier. I've got to fetch it, but you can still feel a bit of kickback on the way back. You can feel the club going with you and coming back with you. That little bit of recovery out of it, out of that midsection. Incredibly stable, which it should be at this weight. But yeah, it's not. I know it's heavy, but it's easy to get back to the ball. So
just from that initial description, it almost sounds like it will be a good. Obviously, without testing, it's difficult to say, but it almost feels like it will be a good 3-wood, 2-wood, strong 3-wood, 2-wood shaft, where it's that little heavier that where driver might sit at 65 for someone, they might want to go into the low 70s in a shorter tee-off club, kind of sounds like it would do the job.
Maybe the mini driver-esque kind of thing. Yeah.
Let me give it a go in driver and see what happens. I'll have to work hard with this one as well.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, there's a lot of stability there. You know, the weight's there, but I think what you often get when you up the weight, I think there is a progression of stability as you're going from 55 to 65 to 75, but not an upping in harshness. It's stability rather than, you know, feeling like an absolute poker.
What's interesting is initial hand feel in the 75, and it's only in the 75 I noticed that it feels a little thicker in the handle.
Okay.
Which is maybe where, with the weight being that bit heavier and therefore they've gone for the slightly more stable feel, they've gone to a slightly thicker handle section. It just feels almost like it's a layer of tape thicker, just the way it sits in the hand. That's then too heavy for me, but it's a nice feel for the too heavy. You get that nice feedback and go. Yeah, they've done a really good job giving
some shafts when they go heavy just feel unplayable. It actually feels like if you had to, you could make it work. Yeah, you'd maybe want to build it a bit shorter, but you could definitely make it work. Yeah, slight toey, but
impressive.
It's very throughout all of the shafts, the spin's very consistent.
We haven't lost spin on any of them. Even the lightest, we didn't lose it high. This, we haven't lost it low.
There was one. There was one where I caught it right out of the. Okay. Very heely, 3-1. Considering that was a bit of a stinker of a strike. That's really pretty good, and a bit toey. So yeah, I mean. And that's in the.
That's in this one.
In the 75, which is just too much shaft for me. So you could kind of understand the strike point starting to get away. You know, face closed, toe strike. That's spin's dropped off, but there's still a bit of launch. But yeah, all things considered, like that was a little lower on the face. Yeah, 2-4. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then one that stayed up a little high right, solid hit, a little high right, 2-2. That's really. It's a narrow window. You know, when you go to a shaft that's just not the right one, you know, it's just not the right one for me, then you're going to get a bit more volatility of delivery. That's going to throw a little bit more variance in. But yeah, I guess judging by the lighter weight, where the spin stability was for both of us, really impressive.
Yes. So this is now the 75.5, and as I say, we shouldn't do the waggle test, but now you're starting to feel there's a lot of golf club here.
Yeah.
It's become a lot more stable through that midsection. It's lost that little bit of give and go that you got through it, which when we had them uncut and we did the bend test, you could really feel there was not a lot of give in this.
And ultimately you're going to this weight and stiffness your shaft because you're not wanting, you want it to feel stout, you want it to feel stable. Not necessarily wanting it to feel like it kicks.
Yeah, that is a poker, but I have to say, I felt the initial load and unload.
Right.
A lot more muted than any of the others, but you still get a little bit of that feedback and feel. Let me try and really rip at one.
You do, I'm not sure I would.
Let me try and really go after one. If I really load one up on the hands, I might just get a little bit more feedback on this. It could go anywhere. Yeah, you still get the feedback.
190. Yeah. But again, it still has that depth of note off the face that when you go, again, when often go really stable, again, that pitch of note goes up. But that doesn't seem to have done. Again, a little bit right, but again, very, very stable on the spin. I think that as a series looks to me like it's just a very consistent progression performance up the weights, up the flexes. And I think quite obviously there's a 10 gram progression in weight, but yeah, the 65 stiff to 75 stiff, 65X to I don't think I'm man enough to hit that one. Actually, it's the weight going up rather than the shaft particularly changing that gives the stability rather than ramping up the stiffness.
Yeah, I think if you're someone that,
hence the torque values being pretty
Yes.
stable.
I think if you're someone that finds a feel with one of them that you really like, if you fall in love with the 65 stiff, I think there's definitely an argument that the automatic drop into the 75 stiff in a 3-wood, actually
well
from
work.
the initial design and the initial feel with drive, that could well work because there's not a big change from one weight bracket to the next, which is always nice to see.
As you say, yeah, the butt size just going up.
Okay.
Fraction each shaft. So
I am
again,
a
going for
sensitive
that,
soul.
yeah, believe it or not. But yeah, that little bit of hoop strength, a little bit of extra rigidity in the butt section, just getting fractionally bigger. So a 610 and the 75 and a 600 and the 55. So 605 and the 65. So a bit of a progression all the way through. But yeah, really, good graphics as well. I have to point out the graphics is a key thing.
More muted than previous. Just the soft blue, grey and red rather than the yellow and pink that the standard Synystr is. It's a little more...
A little bit
muted.
matted down as well versus the gloss finish. Again, VA always do a great job. Props to Heather for the designs. Really good job of making themselves noticed, but and being a little bit different and not being afraid to go out there. And this sits as part of the villain series, and you've still got the little face, the Synystr face on the back of the shaft. So something that I think the VA do really, really well. So not just the performance, but the looks match too. So yeah, great job VA. Really looking forward to getting these. And this is literally tips just gone on, first hit, first look.
Yeah, impressive stuff. We'll get them out in the bay and we'll see what we can do. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. As always, leave a like. Chuck a comment in there if there's anything you want us to test that we haven't. If you've got any questions and you want one of us to cover them, whether it's me at my freak speed or someone a little more normal, just chuck them down there and we'll get to them. Thanks again for watching. Cheers for now.
See you soon.